Hello, welcome back, y'all. So today we're going to be discussing Quiet, the Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. And I am a registered introvert, but I'm kind of an extrovert, so I'm an ambivert, and yes, that is a real word. This is basically about introverts, how they deal with their surroundings and how they deal with extroverts, and then just many snapshots of introverts in real life. I'm going to be doing quotes from the book. So, quote, "We revere our founding fathers because they were loudmouths on the subjects of freedom. The Christianity of early religious revivals depended on the showmanship of ministers who were considered successful if they caused crowds of normally reserved people to weep, shout, and lose their decorum." So, to make them have mass hysteria? Yeah, that sounds like a great religion. Whatever. So then I was thinking, what's the difference between ministers, politicians, and self-help people? Again, they're all just loud and are able to cause mass hysteria. And I know I'm going to tick off a lot of people by saying that, but that's just my opinion, and everybody has their own opinion, so just take it with a grain of salt. Chill. Quote, "When you're more of a listener than a speaker, you're considered unintelligent or not caring. We perceive talkers as smarter, even though in tests this is inaccurate." I've never thought talkers were smarter. Quite the opposite, because they just run their mouths, and for the most part it's just, if you listen, it's just kind of like a loop of the same thing. They just say it in like 3 or 4 different ways, and it's annoying, and most of the time they're just talking to hear themselves talk because they think they know what they're talking about, and they don't. You know, again, my opinion. Quote, "Evangelicalism," yeah, that's right, "has taken the extrovert ideal to its logical extreme. If you don't love Jesus out loud, it must not be real love. It's not enough to force your own spiritual connection to the divine. It must be displayed publicly." And that also makes me wonder, is it because they're all, when they, are evangelical in church and, showing up and acting, praising God and raising their hands and stuff, is it mass hysteria, or are they really feeling it? Sometimes you don't know. But I've been there, and I have, to churches, and I'm an introvert. I don't raise my hands and sing out loud and all this stuff. That doesn't mean I don't love Jesus. It just means I do it in a different way. But if you don't do it around them people, they lose that. You can tell they're like, "Ooh, something's wrong with her. She must be faking it." Or there must be something really wrong in her spiritual walk with the Lord. She needs to be prayed for. No, I'm just quiet. Whew. Woosah. Again, quote, "Sensitive types usually think in an unusually complex fashion. It may also explain why they're so bored with small talk. If you're thinking in more complicated ways, then talking about the weather or trips isn't as interesting about talking about values and morality." And that's true. I hate small talk more than anything. I hate it. It just makes me grit my teeth, and I'm just very uncomfortable, and it makes me anxious for some reason. Another quote, "In some studies done in relation to delayed gratification," don't be thinking dirty, "participants could either receive a small reward immediately or a larger one in 2 to 4 weeks. And most people went for the smaller immediate reward." And so it reminded me of a part in the book Freakonomics about where they did a study of how people that are poor have the fancy stuff, and how people on the internet are very rude and talk about, "Oh, well, why did they get, have food stamps, have to use food stamps or, stuff like that to get their groceries, but yet they have the fancy nails or the fancy kicks or nice clothes or, whatever. Well, and it's because people that are poor, when they get a fair amount of money, they don't necessarily know when they're going to have another good chance of getting a good amount of money and being able to get what they want, so they get it then. And I don't blame them. I'm definitely poor myself, and I try not to go nutty with it, but sometimes you just have to. And it just depends on the person too. Sometimes they make bad choices and get stuff when they should use it for other things, but to each his own. But to put it in perspective, all the people that complain about the poor folks doing that, based on the delayed gratification study, it showed that all people would do that. So all you well-off people and people that look down on poor people, y'all need to shut it, because you would do the same thing. I am really going to be irking people on this one, aren't I? So, there's a professor named Brian Little, and he created the free trait theory, which is we are born and culturally endowed with certain personality traits, but we can and do act out of character in the service of core personal projects. So if you're a born introvert, very quiet, but you have to go to work and you're like in customer service or something and you're like, yay, and enthusiastic, that's the free trait theory. You can act that way because you have to do that because that's your job, but then when you go home, you can quiet back down and get back to your nice introverted self. And so it makes sense why I'm more social at work. Yeah. So also, since we're in the vein of introverts, and then just the book is obviously called Quiet, I just wanted to show you guys this is my quiet area. I like to read here sometimes. It's nice and settling. It's got a cozy little mood, and I enjoy it quite a lot. So the book, it was, I would say from 1 to 5. It was a 4. A few places were a bit dry for me, but that was kind of where they were talking about, the professor of, this subject and at this school and blah 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 blah, and that was kind of boring. Sorry, but whatever. So if you have any questions or comments, you can add them below. Feel free to share. Sorry if I pissed you guys off, but everybody has their own opinions. Everybody's different. No worries. So the next book that I'm going to be reading is this one. It's called Hyperbole and a Half: Unfortunate Situations, Flawed Coping Mechanisms, Mayhem, and Other Things That Happen by Ali Brosh. And I've started reading it so far, and it's super duper funny. And it's not just a book. I just wanted to point this out. It's not just, a book. It's like a book with comics in it. But the comics are of her and stuff in her life. And it's super funny and great. And I can't wait to read it. Hope you guys like this, and I will talk to everyone later. Bye!